there's always a beverage that we're clinking with and cheersing with. And, I think we like the idea of like, there's no judgment here. It should be a beverage you enjoy and looks and tastes the part of an adult beverage, but whether or not it has alcohol in it is irrelevant.
Hello, everyone. This is Lisa Carmen Wang. Welcome to Profit to the People, the official podcast of Republic, where we believe you have the power to invest in the future you believe in. Today, I'm here with Chris Boyd, the co-founder and CEO of Drink Monday, a company that is bringing delightful, alcohol-free adult beverages to consumers globally. Monday means people no longer have to choose between good health and great taste. Monday gin and Monday whiskey. You can drink delicious cocktails, socialize without stress, and wake up feeling fresh and hangover-free. Drink Monday is a Republic portfolio company that has successfully fundraised. Chris, welcome to Profit to the People.
Lisa, hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm still new to the podcast scene and I'm just honored someone wants to hear me talk. So, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I just want to start off because it's been pretty recent that you closed your round on Republic. Why did you choose to crowdfund and what was the success and result coming out of it?
Yeah, sure. So, I think, me and my co-founding group, we're just kids from Southern California. We're very community oriented. We're serial entrepreneurs. So we like to start things with a groundswell of like support on the ground. And, we really started as a community funded group on Kickstarter, right? So I would say equity crowdfunding is like the growing up of that, right? To this next level, we actually bring people in as true owners and those folks willing to take this ride with us, like can benefit from our future success. Like we're truly together and linked. And we are so about that. Like not only is our product and our mission kind of aligned there, but it's just like as fellow entrepreneurs and we're investors in other groups too, like it's truly a win-win and we love seeing it and we wanted to be a part of it. Right. So, this was kind of a no-brainer for us. I think not only is the potential of getting fully funded, which we were lucky enough to do, not only is that a value point, but really the most powerful thing that we see coming is you have these investors who are going to be your brand ambassadors and they're going to be people spreading the good word and, having that pride of ownership, right? You're just like, hey, friend, family, business that I go to, brick and mortar, my favorite bar, my favorite restaurant, like check out this thing I own. They're amazing. I want to put you in touch. I want to get you linked up with them. Extrapolate that over time times, I think we have over 1,300 investors. Like that is exponential growth defined. And we are so excited to kind of harness that as like that phase two of our closing. Phase one, of course, getting the cash in, putting that money to work for our investors. But like we're just so excited that something like this exists and Republic kind of helped guide us through the process. And, we're super stoked. I think all of our dreams have really come true on Republic. And now it's time to actually realize those dreams, harness them and get us to that vision level that we've been thinking about for a couple of years now.
Awesome. Congratulations again. So tell me then, let's go to the focus on your product. This non-alcoholic, you started out with gin. Tell me about the founding story about it. Why is this the passion that you're focused on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think on its head, the idea of a spirit without alcohol, I definitely sense there can be some confusion out there. And, certainly we see that. That's something you'd see with maybe any new category. You get a lot of the why, right? And it's just one of those things where you have to take people on a little bit of a journey to kind of have them be curious and ask questions, right? So that kind of happened with our founding story. I mean, I think really it was 2019. I was consulting in healthcare and biotech at the time, and any consultant out there will tell you, it's 60 to 80 hour weeks. They're really stressful. You're only as good as the last project that you did, and you're always earning that next contract, all that good stuff. So it's January 5th. It's my birthday. It's a Sunday. And, I got to fly up to San Francisco. I'm down here in San Diego on a Monday, right? So, hey, going out for my birthday, it's going to be chill. It's not like this big thing. I'm turning like 38, I think. So I like have one gin drink with my friends. I have two, and then my buddy wants to buy the next round. I'm like, hey, I actually want water, and they're like, they're giving me a hard time, right? They're like, it's your birthday. What are you doing? It's the weekend. What are you doing? And I'm just like, guys, I have a lot of important things to do on Monday, and I don't want to feel fuzzy. I don't want to be on my A game. I'm pitching the C-suite on the next 18-month contract. So it's one of those things, right? Of like, hey, I chose to not have the effects of alcohol kind of ruin my next few days, if you will, or slow me down. And I think it was that aha moment there of like, why can't I keep drinking these complex adult beverages without the alcohol that I'm trying to avoid here? And, I think I just tucked that away. I went about my business through the quarter, finished out my contract. And, so I'm sitting there at the gym, entrepreneurial gym. So a lot of people there. My friend and now co-founder of Monday, Ben, I just ran into him. And anytime we run into each other, we chit chat, like, what are you thinking about? What's next? And I was like, what about gin that doesn't have alcohol in it? And he it was so strange. Like I couldn't really get out my next sentence, and he stopped me. He's like, yes, I've actually been thinking about this myself. Serial entrepreneur. He's an advisor, board member to a half dozen brands at any given moment. And he's got 4 young kids at home, right? And both of us being at the gym, you can tell we're probably like competitive go-getters, right? So the last thing we need is a hangover to keep us down for 1 or 2 days or keep us off our game. So, I think we struck lightning there, and we're just kind of like, all right, let's see if there's a thing here. And really that took us on this discovery of like, what's happening online? Where are there any trends? So sober curiousness and the idea of dry January was taking hold in Europe, coming across to the East Coast and slowly making its way west. We're definitely seeing some non-alcoholic spirit products back in early 2019. Again, mostly in Europe. A couple things coming stateside. We definitely wanted to give those a try. And, entrepreneurs are like, hey, I'll be a customer if there's something that scratches my itch. And we tried what was out there. We weren't super impressed. And we're kind of like, this is interesting, right? Because it's like we know through our research that keyword searches and white space searching and looking at brick and mortars and beverage directors, people who are interested in drinks, like people are starting to ask for this. There's nothing out there. Like, I think we might be on the cusp of something here that's not only needed for people like us, but it is like a market opportunity. So I think right there, we just decided like, look, let's save our dollars. Let's spend, what we live on in savings and let's see what we can do here the next 6-8 months. And kind of off we went. Right. And that was an interesting journey. It's really like, okay, let's go to distillers and let's talk about this idea and try to get someone on board to help us like make the gin. We both come from a long line of gin loving years. And I think we had an idea in our heads of what we wanted to taste like and feel like, but we didn't really know how to make it. So distilling was interesting. And, I think I made about 85 phone calls, and I think the first 84 I got laughed off the phone, or some people even were angry that I was trying to do something like this. So
what's that convo like? You're just saying, hey, I'm this guy, don't really have experience in this industry, but I want to make a non-alcoholic gin.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much like that, right? I'm like, hey, what about gin minus the alcohol? And trying to get into more like, I want the profile to be a certain way, a London dry style, like letting them know, like, I know what I'm talking about, but I have no idea how it's made. Right. And, I think there's some people who are thoughtful that are like, I see what you're doing and I either don't agree with it or I don't have time for you. Number one. Number two was like, I don't get it. Get off the phone. This is offensive. And then number three was like, oh, maybe I could do that, write me a 6-figure check and I'll check in a couple of years and we'll see how that goes for you. And I'm like, okay, obviously none of those are going to work. So I think it was like call 85 or 86. We met up with our now head distiller, entrepreneurial guy, owns his own distillery in Los Angeles, makes an array of spirits, and is kind of on our level of like looking into what's new and interesting and just willing to take the ride with us, right? He's like, hey, no guarantees here, but I'm willing to try this out. Like I get where you're headed. So I think we just wrote him a personal check on the spot. No entity, no company form, no domain set, no brand, no name. So just kind of going for it, right? And
how much was that first check for?
I think it was like 20 or 30K. I forget. It was interesting, right? It was like, okay, now we're in, right? There's no backing out of this. Let's see what we have. And I think the next few months, we let Rob, our distiller, kind of do his thing, work his magic, get us a few things to taste. And while he did that, like we're just forming up the rest of the founding team, right? And saying, hey, who else is interested in this ride, right? So other e-commerce people with expertise, some branding and design. So I think the idea was to form like this founding super team that really could do it all under the sun. So we wouldn't have to go out and hire teams that we can't afford right now because we don't have anything, or hire expensive agencies again without any revenue or a proven product yet. So what can we do with an in-house group and just hit the ground running? So forming that team was great. North County, San Diego, very entrepreneurial. So, it kind of spreads around and easy to connect and network with folks. So, that was definitely fun going into the middle of the summer, probably around July 4th, 2019. So we had our first tastings of gin, and there were 3 offerings. 2 weren't great. But one was like, man, it's like 80% spot on, like a huge step forward. We were kind of surprised how fast we kind of got real close. And, I remember distinctly, we went through a tasting session. We actually celebrated with an alcoholic gin and tonic. And 15 minutes later, we forgot which glass was which. And we realized that the Monday one actually stood up next to the alcoholic gin and tonic. It was very difficult to tell. And that was a mind-blowing experience because we didn't actually think it could compete with alcohol. We thought it would be like real close, like your little brother or second cousin, right? And it turns out like it is every bit the player as the alcoholic stuff. And I think that was really validating for us that we're definitely onto something here and we can compete.
Awesome. So can you tell us a bit more about the industry stats and just the burgeoning non-alcoholic industry? Like, what does that look like as a potential really big movement?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so the sober and sober curious movement has started for a while. And again, I think it really started in the UK and EU, and folks really, maybe what has become mainstream now is dry January, especially the last 2 years. But dry January has been a thing for I believe 4 or 5 years in the UK and really become contagious around the world. I'd say this past dry January, it really become mainstream. There was a stat out there, like 1 in 3 Americans had at least heard of the concept. And I believe 1 in 5 had attempted the challenge, which those are massive numbers. I would have expected, something like 10%, not like, wow. So blown away by that. I think you have these up and coming brands who really want to serve this community, right? Because I think a lot of us in a small growing community, we're here for the passion and the love of the people because we are one of those people, right? So we want that proper adult beverage without alcohol so we can still like be one with our fellow, party goers or, pre-COVID party goers going out and here soon after, like reconnecting with people face to face. And, there's always a beverage that we're clinking with and cheersing with. And, I think we like the idea of like, there's no judgment here. It should be a beverage you enjoy and looks and tastes the part of an adult beverage, but whether or not it has alcohol in it is irrelevant in our minds, right? And I think that's far from the cultural norm today, but I think products like ours and a space like ours really have that opportunity to make that concept mainstream. That really is our challenge as a cohesive industry, is like, let's make this mainstream. When you go to any bar or restaurant, you should have proper drinking options, many of which are non-alcoholic and some of which are alcoholic. And it really should not matter in terms of like how you interact with one another and how you socialize, as long as you're doing it with something you enjoy in front of you. So that's really the challenge there. I'd say the opportunity overall is that drinking alcohol, despite all the great, wine memes and the lockdown pandemic memes, suggests the actual industry, people are drinking less than ever. And the younger generations are drinking less than any other generations in history. So alcohol drinking is down. I think the idea of being overall more health conscious, rise of the vegan movement, gluten-free, keto, paleo movements, people are just overall more mindful of their health. And I think those two things definitely go together, right? So I think, we're definitely seeing non-alcoholic beverages rise as a group. Of course, it's a small micro category so far, but you kind of see the big players in beverage putting big bets on this area. So they're definitely seeing the trend towards this becoming a real large thing, not in the not too distant future. So we're super happy that we're here. We can play a part. And, really it's just about, again, coming back to that community, supporting people brave enough to avoid some alcohol in public. And we really want to give them that experience because there is a chance for a healthy trend to actually take hold in the mainstream, which I think is kind of rare these days. So I definitely want to be part of those good times.
And is there the goal of eventually getting into every restaurant, every bar, and that's just always an option?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's less about Monday. I think Monday will come along for that ride, and our products are biased, of course. They're definitely premium. I would love to see non-alcoholic options, like an array of them that really go for everyone's taste profile, right? So if you're a wine or a beer drinker, we still need non-alcoholic options for you, not just Monday products, right? And then if you're a spirits lover, there should be an array of spirits, right? Because it's not just, you don't walk into a bar and you have like one beer, one wine, and one whiskey on hand, right? There's a huge bar back there. There's tons of variation. There's tons of exploration, right? It's like this amazing time to be alive in terms of like the food and beverage available to you and how exciting that space is. And we want non-alcoholics to really play a role that complements that, not as like I'm not drinking, I'm going to have something that's like close but not good. We don't want that, right? It should be every bit as good, and in some cases even better.
So with your Monday whiskey, are people sipping that as well instead of just putting it in a cocktail?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, so whiskey is live. It's on a kind of pre-order basis, and we've got that first batch going. So initial feedback coming in is like people are enjoying it a number of ways. And I think one way we really wanted them to enjoy it is kind of the natural way, whichever way they take it. And one of those is neat. And this is interesting because there are other non-alcoholic whiskeys and bourbons that have been out in market. And most of the feedback is, don't even try it neat. It's awful. It's best mixed. And we kind of wanted to take that challenge on because we know a lot of whiskey drinkers that only drink it neat or only drink it very simply with like on the rocks or with just a little bit of bitters, something to that effect. So we wanted that to be available to you as an option. So, neat is actually one of my preferred ways to drink it, even with just a little dash of bitters. So I think it holds its own from there all the way up to classic cocktails, your Manhattans, your old fashions, and then into interesting like mixology creations that are out there for some of the more creative folks. So, really trying to paint in broad strokes and meet people where they are and give them something that's familiar and versatile.
And then in the ingredients, what actually comprises it?
It's a bit of magic. So, there's brand new categories. So we have distillation, old school classic processes, taking place inside a bona fide distillery that does make alcoholic spirits. And then we have some new age processes. I would liken some of them to how you make essential oils and produce really strong sensations without alcohol, essentially. So we have a lot of old school and new school going on, especially our whiskey is exciting because it actually is matured in oak. So you definitely have some oakiness, some like, we don't age, of course, because it's a fresh product, but I would liken it to aging in barrels, which a lot of whiskey lovers, are probably familiar with. So we have some of those same parallels, and we have to do some interesting things that aren't quite as risky because we're not alcohol. So being a fresh product, we have to keep it fresh. We can't do too much like aging and things. But yeah, we definitely have this old school, new school approach, and trying to bring something new to the market.
And then what about pricing? How does this compare to buying alcoholic drinks?
Kind of TBD as far as like what's out there in bars and restaurants. It's, I think it's getting going. It'll probably sit somewhere between like a top shelf cocktail that you buy on a menu versus a well drink, and then higher, of course, than like a soda water or a sugary soda, which is something you might be buying now if there's no non-alcoholic option. So probably price point per drink somewhere in the middle there. As far as our bottles go, I would say we consider ourselves a top shelf product, but when you compare us to top shelf whiskeys and gins, we're actually quite comparable. I think about on the gin side, like a Monkey 47 is, a $75 bottle of gin. We run $39.99. And then in the whiskey world, of course, you have crazy price bottles, $500 to $5,000 and all the way up, whereas we're priced at $44.99. So kind of one of those things of like, this is essentially, as a startup, a lot of entrepreneurs out there know, especially with, COVID and all the supply chain stuff, it's really hard to make a product that no one's ever made before and do it at a margin where you can actually, get something back for your business and reinvest it. So those kind of price points are kind of what we were thinking even pre-COVID, but now even more so. The idea of having, say, a $20 bottle of spirit, we're just the math doesn't work. So we're kind of happy with our placement positioning, and relative to the other top shelves that are alcoholic in the space, we think we're pretty competitive.
So you guys have clearly been quite successful in this stage. Let's just go back quickly to, where you are now, and then where you're going. So tell us about your experience raising on Republic.
Our experience was pretty awesome. I have to say, we previous to taking the plunge with Republic, we had been, raising and talking to various funds and angels for about a year prior. And that's definitely a grind, right? Just trying to find the right fits, and then, going through diligence and all that good stuff. I think what I love about Republic is it really is like a full send, right? So you're 2 steps in and you're fully transparent with the world when you go live, right? Like, you are telling the world everything about your company, which is super terrifying if you're kind of an old school company man. And it's so kind of relieving once you're in there, right? And it's like, cool, everyone's playing by the same rules. Everybody has all my information. We're an open book. People can ask questions on a forum that's trackable and scrollable, and people can see like answers over time, making sure people like me are being held to account, saying, oh, that's not a uniform answer. Like, what about this? Like, getting called out on your stuff, but also you can kind of push back, right? On my end of like, if I'm asked the same question 10 times, I can kind of refer you to an area where I already placed those answers. And I'm like, hey, we are being transparent. Here's that information. I love that process. And I think based on the feedback I've seen, not only through our campaign, but other campaigns, is like investors like that stuff too, right? It's like really ultra fair and transparent access to information. And you have full access to me as a founder with, I answer everything and I try to do it as quickly and thoroughly as possible. It's a very honest approach. And when you think about bringing in people that are your customers and your fans and industry insiders who kind of want to peek over and see what you're up to, because as far as I know, we're the only brand in our young space that's done this, and that's super exciting too. And I think everybody was interested of like, hey, is this going to be a thing? I'm just blown away by the process. And I really think it is the way of the future. We just got to connect so deeply with people, and we haven't even formally closed, right? So it's like, I can't wait till we have full access to investor, contact info, and we can start doing like email campaigns and getting them more involved and getting their feedback and learning about their expertise. A lot of people come with some deep industry chops across a number of areas, and just starting to really dive into that world and accessing those assets and then starting to utilize them is super exciting. And that's even a chapter that I'm just guessing at. I bet it's even going to be better than I think.
What are your plans now that you have been able to close, and how are you thinking about expanding?
So, that is the fun part, right? We've been kind of on the campaign trail, and, we got funded. Those funds are starting to come in, and now we got to put them to work. We actually have to do what we said we would do. And for me, that's the fun part, right? Because I like to make good on my promises. I don't like to do the promise making up front, because I really want to get to the work of like proving that we can do this. So we're right in the thick of it right now. And it's really about getting the team ready to grow, and then getting the company and its infrastructure ready to grow. We have some pretty aggressive expansion efforts underway. And, I think, again, COVID supply chain is a mess right now. So we're trying to diversify that, get more goods onshore, get them warehoused nearby, and then get bottles into boxes and get them out the door. Because it's always been, to date, there's more demand than there is supply. And we really want to flip that to where we can actually get some inventory in-house and start to do some creative things, because we've really just scratched the surface of what our company is capable of doing, and really starting to meet the needs of a wider audience of customers. So I'm super eager to get that done. As soon as that's done, hopefully here early summer, we want to go to work on another spirit offering or two. So that's really the fun part for a lot of us. We came into the space as drink lovers, and getting back to our roots of like, let's think about the next spirit and how we want to approach that. That's really exciting for us. I know my co-founder, Ben, too, he's, a big marketing guy, ex-Facebook guy. So he really wants to get deeper into the brand story and connecting with people on deeper levels, sharing their stories and surfacing them, right? Because what we're learning is everybody has a story about their relationship with alcohol, whether it's them personally, a family member, or a friend. And we want to really surface this because they're so powerful for sharing and for really bringing this mainstream comfort level with like, hey, we kind of are all in this together. I think previously there's this idea that like alcohol is fun for everyone, and then the small group of people who need AA. That's completely ridiculous, right? It's more like shades of gray, and it's dynamic, right? At some point, at any point, we could have maybe a little hard time with alcohol. Maybe we should pump the brakes a little. And maybe this last lockdown, we went in a little deep on the wine. Maybe we need to back out of that. Maybe we need a non-alcoholic product that gives me that taste profile, but allows me to back out of that alcohol. And it turns out like I'm sleeping better. I lost some weight. I'm feeling fresh. I'm crushing work. And maybe that becomes a habit. So all of those things are like, we want to really shine a light on that group of people brave enough to tell those stories. And really that's what that's about. The products, as great as they are secondary. It really is about the people. So whatever we can do to highlight those stories, that's really what we want to focus on here going forward.
Well, I'm so excited for you guys and the team. And as a former competitive athlete myself, I am definitely on the health train, and a New York City girl, definitely looking for more of those alternatives.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. Well, I appreciate it so much, and letting us talk a little bit about Monday, and moreover, like, I feel like I'm equity crowdfunding's biggest fan now. So I tell everybody that wants to hear, like, you need to look into this. Republic's really taking care of me from day one, and they've really, they really wanted us to win, So I really feel like we're a part of a team from a start, and it's just it's been a true pleasure just going through the process.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Cool. Thank you.
This podcast is provided for educational purposes only by Republic and Republic.co. Nothing discussed should be construed as legal, tax, accounting, or investment advice. The views of the presenters may not be the views of Republic and its affiliates. Always consult with trusted professional advisors before making investments. Private investments are inherently illiquid and may result in a total loss. All rights reserved.